12 drivers arrived in New Hampshire today with one objective: take a step closer to the Sprint Cup Series championship. The NASCAR postseason is here. The chase has begun.
Previously, in the race to the chase.
Martin is catching Greg Biffle. Biffle's out of gas. Here comes Martin to the bottom of the racetrack.
Here he comes for the first time as an owner-driver, Tony Stewart.
Jimmy Johnson becomes a three-time winner at the Brickyard 400.
Kane begins to accelerate. Second gear, third gear, fourth gear. Pop the champagne, Jeff Gordon.
Get ready, come on now.
Newman goes way up the racetrack.
The 99 has been the best car. The 42's not bad there either. Did we make it? Did we make it? Oh, man, you made it. Great job. Hell yeah, that's what I'm talking about, boys.
12 drivers, 10 races, 1 champion. An elite fraternity with an extreme initiation. Thousands of grueling miles earns a place in this line, but it gets you no further. For an ice-cold conqueror, the path to the prize is well-worn, but never guaranteed. A battle-tested warrior tries to seize the crown as both master and commander. A veteran of victory must negotiate this new road to ultimate glory. 9 more contenders complete this volatile band of brothers, each with equal reason to believe. If you want a shot at immortality, you've come to the right place. Welcome to the chase.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to NASCAR Now. I'm Mike Massaro. Alongside Boris Said, race 1 of the chase is in the books. So what do you think, Boris? Did it live up to its hype?
Oh, my God, yeah. You were yelling at the TV just like I was. I mean, the last 50 laps of that race was fantastic, especially with these double-file restarts. You didn't know who was going to win until that last lap coming around turn 4, and I thought it was a great race.
And there were certainly plenty of storylines heading in. Mark Martin, the sentimental favorite, looking for his first championship. Jimmy Johnson, well, he's looking for his 4th title. Meanwhile, Juan Pablo Montoya was the pole sitter. And early on, Juan Pablo Montoya looked very strong, taking the green flag, bypassing Tony Stewart, and pulling away, looking very strong early on. That could not, however, be said for every chaser. One chaser had some problems real early on with the motor.
I'm having a problem. Blown up. Pressure all right. It's not out of fuel. It's done up in smoke. It's done.
And that, the voice of a very disappointed Casey Kane, one of the chasers, taking a devastating hit in the points. He ended up the day 38th, and that would certainly put him in a hole with 9 races to go. Meanwhile, Juan Pablo Montoya takes advantage of the front pit stall.
Qualifying on the pole definitely was a big advantage all day for Juan Pablo. He beat everyone out of the pits consistently.
Faced a little bit of a challenge, however. Denny Hamlin had a strong race car as well.
Yeah, he was strong all day long, and those guys raced each other hard pretty much the whole race.
Hamlin very strong, just wrapping at the rear bumper of Montoya. Problem here for Eric Darnell. He spins, bringing out the caution, and again, the leaders will come down pit road. And Juan Pablo Montoya will lead them down there one more time. Problem for another chaser, Kurt Busch and David Reagan. What happened here?
Well, David Reagan's in his box, but he should have given Kurt a little bit of respect there. He knew he was coming out. I think both guys, the spotters, didn't do their job there, but Kurt got lucky, not a lot of damage.
And you saw Pat Tryson very concerned. Lap 168, another big wreck, this time involving Robbie Gordon, Paul Menard, Elliott Sadler. However, no chasers involved.
Yeah, Joey just got into the quarter panel of Elliott Sadler, and that started that whole melee, but luckily no chasers, like you said.
And another problem here, this time Jeff Burton spinning around, everyone else able to avoid contact. That happening on lap 176. But a problem for one of the favorites, Tony Stewart.
That's actually the axle cap that holds the rear axle in, so they've got to get that fixed sooner or later.
Darian Grubb keeping a close eye on that. David Stremme, however, goes around on lap 192. That will again bring out the caution. giving the 14 team a bit of an opportunity to look at that problem as the leaders come on down pit road. 14 team will go to work on that axle cap, and they took the time to make sure they fixed it.
I was curious, though, there was a yellow just before this that they didn't take advantage of, and this yellow actually could have got him right back to the front.
That, however, did hurt Tony Stewart. He dropped from the top 5 all the way back. He ended up finishing 14th. Meanwhile, Mark Martin passes Kurt Busch and begins to look like one of the stronger cars on the racetrack.
Yeah, that was a time when his crew chief made a key decision to keep him out there and got a lot of track position. Here we are, the Hendrick teammates racing each other hard. Dale Earnhardt had a great run going.
And that was, of course, Jimmy Johnson and Jeff Gordon. A little bit of contact there, a little bit of rough racing. Meanwhile, Mark Martin on pit road for the final time on lap 243. Pit stops would eventually cycle out, and after Bobby Labonte makes his pit, well, that gives Mark Martin the lead back once again.
And by Mark Martin short pitting on new tires, he was able to build up a pretty sizable lead at this point.
More aggressive racing going on behind Mark. Juan Pablo Montoya and Jeff Burton getting at it.
Yeah, Juan Pablo was so aggressive through pit stops. He got a little behind on track position, but he raced his way to the front, not making Jeff Burton too happy.
And a lot of people disappointed by this. 18 laps to go, and one of the more popular drivers, I should say the most popular driver, after having such a great run, Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the wall. What happened?
That's the product of double file restarts. Just 3 wide. David Rudiman just got in a little hot and just got into Dale's left rear quarter. Didn't mean to do it, but sent the 88 around and ended his day in frustration.
And he was running inside the top 10 there in the closing laps. It looked like a top 10 finish was a definite possibility for Junior. That would not be the case, however. Meanwhile, Juan Pablo Montoya making an aggressive move, moving to the front. On a restart, Mark Martin gets away. Juan Pablo Montoya trying to track him down in the closing laps.
Yeah, right now, Mark Martin says, I got this race won, but oh no. A.J. Allmendinger spins, and another double file restart he's got to go through.
Yep, just 7 laps to go. Mark Martin will have to fend off another challenge from Juan Pablo Montoya, and as we saw him do several times, he chose the outside lane.
Yeah, I was curious by this. With Juan Pablo, I would have definitely taken the inside lane, but it worked for Mark. He was able to hold off under pressure and beat Juan Pablo to the line.
He'd still have to dodge one more bullet. Allmendinger spinning again on the final lap. Caution flag did not come out initially. It eventually did, but not before the leaders came off of turn number 4. Very close call there. Everyone taking evasive action to avoid making contact with Allmendinger. Mark Martin goes to victory lane, winning race 1 of the chase. Mark Martin wins his series-high 5th race of the season and stretches his lead in the chase. It's the first career win at New Hampshire for Martin. Denny Hamlin, coming off a win last week, comes home 2nd. Juan Pablo Montoya finishes 3rd after leading the most laps. Jimmy Johnson and Kyle Busch completed the top 5. There was another milestone associated with Mark Martin's victory Sunday. This was the 40th win of his career, and more on Mark Martin's day. We go out to the racetrack now and bring in NASCAR Now lead reporter Marty Smith. Marty?
Mike, back in the early 80s, Mark Martin ran flat out of money trying to make it in the Cup Series. He went flat broke. He had to tuck his tail between his legs and go back to Arkansas to rebuild his racing career. But before he did that, he said once one of the saddest days of his life was having to stand there and watch everything he'd built, everything he worked for, be auctioned off for pennies on the dollar. My, how far he's come. And you wonder why he gushes so much over his race team.
Part of my being humble is that I took a beating once and got ran out of town. I beat to a pulp and run out of town. And I wouldn't be, I wouldn't be as humble if I hadn't gone through that experience. And the other thing is, I've taken some pretty hard, swallowed some pretty big pills in my racing career. And so, I'm cautious about expecting things. Like, I didn't expect to win this race once the caution started falling. I didn't expect it. I knew I'd fight for it. But to expect it, and then it doesn't happen, it will break you in half. Expect to fight for it, and then you accept the results for what they are. It's just how I manage, my emotions and everything else.
We'll hear more from Mark Martin later in the show. In 2004, Kurt Busch won the opener at New Hampshire on his way to winning the inaugural chase for the Sprint Cup. Although he's the only driver to win this race on his way to a chase title, 4 of the 5 chase champions finished 6th or better at New Hampshire. Jimmy Johnson was 2nd last year in this race on his way to a 3rd consecutive title. Mike?
Marty, there's still obviously a lot of racing remaining here in the chase. That said, what was the emotion like in victory lane after winning race 1?
Well, Mark, of course, was extremely emotional. He has 5 wins now this year. I don't think anybody expected that, but his excitement was dampered maybe just a bit after the race when it was broached that Juan Pablo Montoya somewhat questioned the way that Mark raced him towards the end of the race, maybe checked up just a little bit to slow Juan down, and Mark's response to that question was actually pretty funny. He said, well, hey, as fast as Juan's car was, he might have thought I slowed down because he was so fast. But you guys know, and Boris knows this better than anybody, nobody races his competitors cleaner than Mark Martin does. And Mark actually said after the race, I've taken flack for that over the years. I've been criticized for that, but that type of mantra comes back to you in spades, and it certainly has for Mark Martin, Mike.
Yeah, and that's why a lot of people are real happy for him tonight. Thanks, Marty.
Thanks, Mike.
Well, without question, Mark Martin had a very strong race car this afternoon. But, Boris, what was the key to the victory? I
think the key was Alan Gustafson bringing Mark in as soon as it was time he could make it to the end on fuel, similar to a road course racing. With 57 laps to go, Mark pits while all his competition stays out. What this gives Mark an advantage is on new tires, he's able to make up a lot of ground on these guys. Denny Hamlin takes the lead, and he leads for the next 20 or so laps until 27 laps to go when Denny Hamlin finally has to come into the pits. And when all the green flag stops cycle through, it's going to put Mark Martin back in front. But for this time, he's built up a pretty sizable lead. Now, with the restarts, Mark Martin chooses the outside. I thought this was curious, but he was able to hold off the number 2 car, Kurt Busch. Mark Martin was strong all day long on the outside in these restarts. On the second restart, Mark Martin still chooses the outside, again with Kurt Busch. This is a mental nightmare for a driver, these double file restarts. And here he is, Juan Pablo Montoya, charging through the field with Denny Hamlin. Oh no, another caution when the 44 spins out. Now Mark Martin's got Juan Pablo on the inside. This must have been nerve-wracking, but Mark withstood the pressure, took the lead, and went on to win the race, the first race of the chase. This was an unbelievable, exciting race, and Juan Pablo coming all the way back was an amazing, amazing performance.
And it takes a team effort to win a championship, and we certainly saw that from the 5 team today. Great pit strategy by Alan Gustafson. Don't go away, folks. Still plenty to come here on NASCAR Now. We'll hear about the rest of the chasers when we come back, breaking down each one of their days here on NASCAR Now.
NASCAR Now, brought to you by Carfax.
Tony Stewart, certainly among the chase favorites, started Sunday second, came home, though, with a disappointing 14th place finish for him.
Yeah, he was competitive all day long, but the crew let him down. They left an axle cap loose, and they had to come in and fix it.
And Darian Grubb, unhappy as well.
That was a really good effort. We had a mechanical problem with the assembly of the race car and had a bolt come loose, and basically axle cap came off, so we had to fix it. So we gave up all those positions on pit road. I'm sure he's upset just as much as I am, so he should be. I mean, we let him down. We have to assemble that car to the utmost of our abilities, and we missed it.
Jimmy Johnson looking for his 4th consecutive title. That quest officially began today in New Hampshire. Came home second. A very strong effort for the 48 team.
Yeah, as usual, they made their car better all day long, and he was a factor.
This is a familiar position for Jimmy.
No, it's a good performance. You know, in the middle of the race, or in the last third of the race, I guess, strategy changed, the 5 and the 2, things kind of worked out for them. We had some good green flag runs that kind of helped their strategy play out, and we're just starting to catch them, and the caution came out. I think the 11 and myself could have got to the 2. I don't know about the 5s, so I've got to have mixed feelings with those last few restarts, but either way, a solid performance.
After a victory in the regular season finale, Denny Hamlin carrying some momentum into this day, Boris. He led twice for 22 laps.
Not only momentum, a lot of confidence. Denny Hamlin thinks he can win this championship, and he's definitely a factor to win.
and he finished second Sunday.
We were leading the entire last lap until right off turn 4 I checked up. I didn't want to run into Mark. He had already checked up for the caution. So our FedEx Freight team did a great job, and couldn't be prouder. We had a really fast car at the end. We just kept getting on that bottom line on restarts, and it killed us. We got stuck 3 wide every time, and just had to overdrive those guys getting in, and got into the 48 a couple times. I got to say sorry to him. I was a little aggressive there, but I'd passed him twice on the racetrack, and I just didn't want to get that position back up. But hopefully this is the start of good things.
No chaser had a worse day than Casey Kane. A blown motor, Boris. How devastating is this?
Really devastating. Right now he's in a big hole, but he has nowhere to go but up. So the next race he's just going to be gunning for it.
38th place finish for Casey.
I felt it down the backstretch, started kind of shaking a little bit, and I knew it didn't feel right or feel good as far as engines go. So I looked at the oil, everything looked fine, and then it just kept getting worse and popped. But it's a bad deal. The Bud team did a good job. We were doing good, man. We had a good car. We were working our way up slowly and just had a couple small adjustments to make it better. And I thought we were a pretty good car today.
A lot of people looking at Jeff Gordon as a potential chase winner. Well, today wasn't stellar, but solid. Started 10th, ended up 15th. However, led 0 laps, got no bonus points for us.
Yeah, all day long. It looked like he was going to be in the top 5.
I was concerned about our restarts. The last time we fought that as well, being real loose on the restarts. And, if you're on the front row, you can get away with it a little bit. But, being 5th or 6th, we just really struggled with the grip on the restarts. We'd lose 3-4 spots every restart, and then we started not being able to gain it back. So it wasn't a good day for us. And, one we got to just put behind us and go on.
It was a pretty decent day for Kurt Busch. Started 3rd, finished 6th, led 3 times for 33 laps, but had an issue on pit road.
Yeah, but that on pit road didn't really hurt him, or did the issue of Pat Tryson leaving. He showed he was competitive all day.
It was a fight. We had a good car. We were a top 5 guy, and you could have thrown a blanket over the 5 that finished up front. It just was a matter of which sequence came through. What hurt us the most was the accident on pit road, and that put us on the right sequence. So we were good after that. Just didn't make good adjustments at the end. Lost the handle on the Miller Lite Dodge. So we faded back on all those restarts. But if there was no debris caution, we'd have finished 2nd.
Coming off a clutch performance in Richmond, Brian Vickers performed pretty well again in New Hampshire. Started 26th, but fought his way up close to the top 10, ended up 11th, and right now 8th in the standings, 90 points out of the lead.
It's a good, solid finish, but man, we're not making it any easier on ourselves as a team. We started the weekend out, had a lot of engine problems at first practice, really put us an hour and a half behind all of our competitors. And then in the race, we had a lot of problems in the pits and some other problems that just cost us an opportunity, I think, at the top 5. We still rallied back for a top 10, and, I'm really proud of that. But, if we want to win the championship, we're going to have to stop beating ourselves, and that's kind of been our motto.
And another, well, shall we say, lackluster day for Carl Edwards. Boris started 5th, finished 17th.
Yeah, in the beginning of the race, it looked like he had a top 5 car, but he just kind of lost the handling, didn't get the right adjustments, and, Roush Fenway really needs to go back to the drawing board and make these cars better so they can contend for this championship.
Meanwhile, Ryan Newman, pretty good run for him. Started 18th, but made up quite a bit of ground. Ended up with a top 10 finish, 7th.
Yeah, kind of flew under the radar all day, but that's a good start to the chase for Ryan.
We fought track position all day, working our way up, and made a 2-tire call there instead of 4 tires like a lot of guys, and I felt that we had a really good car at the end. We just, that one restart there where the 00 got in the 88, that cost me about 4 spots, and finishing 7th, that means we should have maybe finished 3rd, but I'm happy with the first race. I mean, we're in the hunt. We're 7th in points, had a top 10 finish, and those 2 things are just the top 10 finish, breeds for, a good points finish, and if we get to running like Mark there, we'll be all right.
And a great day for Juan Pablo Montoya. In fact, a great weekend. He started on the pole, ended up leading the most laps on Sunday.
Story of the weekend for me. I mean, he showed so much speed, and even when he got behind, he raced to the front at the end.
And came home with a 3rd place finish.
It was good. Mark just screwed me down there. He stopped the car in the apex, like really in the bottom. I had nowhere to go. I could have pushed him out of the way, how slow he run, but, I respect him a lot, so probably next time I won't wreck him, but I will bump him. But, I'll tell you, everybody in this team keeps doing an amazing job, and we keep surprising people. And it's great to see. I was kind of worried when I was like 12, but I came back strong, and I gotta really trust Brian a little more.
Remember last year, Greg Biffle came into this race winless, but ended up going to victory lane. That would not be the case Sunday. Started 22nd, ended up 9th.
Yeah, pretty good run for Greg. You didn't really see a lot of him all day long, so he kind of flew under the radar, and I think he's got to be pretty happy with a top 10 finish his first weekend.
Still, he needs to do more than that to contend for this championship. Mark Martin came in as your #1 seed, extends his lead now, 35 markers. You can see Jimmy Johnson, Denny Hamlin tied with, well, they're both 35 points back, but by virtue of having more wins, Jimmy Johnson gets the nod, and now just 9 drivers within 100 points of Mark Martin. And certainly a lot of storylines coming out of this race, Boris. What stands out for you?
I think for me, it's Juan Pablo. I mean, all year long, he said he was points racing and just kind of taking his time and making sure he got in the chase. And today he said he was going to let the reins loose. And man, did he let the reins loose. He led a lot of laps. During the pits, he kind of got behind and he didn't give up. He still charged, almost winning the race. I think Juan Pablo is a surprise to me in this chase.
Juan Pablo is certainly one of the things people will be talking about as the week unfolds. Another thing, the finish of this race. Kind of a bizarre ending in New Hampshire as the caution flag came out very, very late. NASCAR lucky to avoid a disaster there as the leaders came to the checkers. Much of the afternoon, it appeared to be a promising day for Dale Earnhardt Jr. until this happened. David Ruderman gets into the rear deck of the 88. The 88 gets into the wall, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. very upset.
Well, if you saw it, you know what happened. The 00 can't hold his line, went down in the bottom of the corner and lost it, run in the side of my car and spun me out. So I know that he can't hold his line, and I should have known that, but I got to run hard and try to win. Some people you just can't race side by side with. So I'm pretty disappointed.
And just before the checkers flew, there was a dramatic moment with A.J. Allmendinger laying right in the path of the leaders coming off of turn 4. For more on that, we go out to the racetrack and bring in Nicole Mansky. And Nicole, what a bizarre ending to this thing.
It really was. We stood around the TV and watched that ending, waiting for them to call the caution. And NASCAR says they did officially call the caution as the leaders were coming through turns 3 and 4, which is less than a half of a mile before the checkered flag. The problem is not every spotter and not every driver heard the caution.
You know when the cars are going to get there, and you wait as long as you can to try to not affect the outcome of a race. And you know, we felt like we had adequate time when we threw the caution, and we did.
They waited too long, I'll tell you that. I'm going to go tell them that, but because that's not safe. I mean, you got a guy sitting on the racetrack, and we got adrenaline flowing with 800 horsepower, and you don't question that. You just you do what's safe and what's smart.
I never heard him say caution, so you know everybody was still going.
My spotter stayed on me. You know, he told me to spin and all that, but he stayed on me. Still green, still green, still green.
Now, immediately after the race, Robin Pemberton said that NASCAR hadn't yet heard from any of the drivers and the crew, but NASCAR did talk with Marcus Ambrose. Now, Marcus Ambrose said that he was blamed for causing that final caution with A.J. Allmendinger. And in 4 years of Sprint Cup Series competition, Marcus said that this was his very first official slap on the wrist, his very first official visit to the NASCAR hauler. He took the blame for it and said he took it with a piece of humble pie. Mike?
And of course, as we all know, drivers never forget their first visit to the NASCAR hauler. Nicole, thanks for your time.
Nope.
And Boris, I know when I watched that, I was holding my breath. What did you think?
Well, I think NASCAR is stuck between a rock and a hard place because they had 106,000 people there that wanted to see it finish on the green. So they were hoping that he would get going a little bit sooner, and it looked pretty safe, but that was a little close for my taste.
Yeah, I thought for sure that somebody was going to pile into somebody, but luckily that did not happen. Don't go away, folks. Still plenty to come here on the show. We'll hear from the race winner when we come back, Mark Martin, next on NASCAR Now.
An incredible opening race in the chase for the Sprint Cup to Mark Martin, the #1 seed starting the day. he never led until the race was after its 2/3 mark. And yet at the end of the day, Mark Martin holding the checkered flag and the trophy in victory lane. Alan Bestwick, Rusty Wallace, Brad Daugherty, reaction to race 1 of the chase from Sunday?
Oh, man, it seems like the older you get, the better you get, at least for Mark Martin. He led the last 68 laps of the race. He ran great all day long. I mean, what a strong race throughout the day. We saw a lot of pit strategy going on, 2 tires, 4 tires, things like that.
Yeah, at the end of the day, the race was really, really good when it got down to those double file restarts, but I was really impressed with how all of our chase contenders stayed up front most of the day, and Tony Stewart even bouncing back to a 14th place finish after having a tough start.
He talked about at the end of the day. I want to go back to the last restart with 3 to go. Mark Martin, the race leader, chooses the outside lane with Juan Pablo Montoya below him. Montoya questioned Martin's tactics a little bit in his initial comments after the race.
Yeah, I watched this restart here a couple times, guys. I didn't see anything wrong that Mark Martin did. You know, he was quick on the top side of this racetrack. He did it time after time. I didn't see any contact, just hard racing, man. 3 laps to go. You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, I think Mark held his line very well around the racetrack and just didn't give Montoya an abundance of room to do what he needed to do. That's just good, clean racing, good, hard racing. Everyone knows Mark's a clean racer. He did a great job.
Montoya, the little wiggle there, and that was what allowed Mark Martin to go on and run away from Montoya as he ended up locking up with Denny Hamlin in the final couple of laps. Hamlin getting credit with 2nd position at the end by where the field was frozen in the final caution, the final spin. So for Mark Martin, what does this win do for him going forward?
Well, he said in victory lane, I'm just speechless. I just can't hardly believe what he's done. I mean, 5 races Mark's won. He's 50 years old. They keep talking about in 8 months or whatever. I mean, the guy's just been fantastic behind the wheel. And right now, guys, it's just all focus on Dover, Delaware right now, that next race. This one's behind you. This chase is wide open, Brad, and they got to focus on that race now.
Yeah, you're right. And what about a solid performance today from Juan Montoya? Did a great job keeping his race car in contention. Denny Hamlin as well. We knew he would be a threat. He did well today. Casey Kane's the only guy that showed himself out the door.
So in our opinions, an exciting opening race to the 10-race chase for the Sprint Cup. Mark Martin, the winner at New Hampshire on Sunday. Now it's on to the Monster Mile in Dover, Delaware. I can't wait to see how race 2 turns out.
And thank you, guys. As we mentioned, that was Mark Martin's 40th career series win. He's only the 16th driver to reach that mark, ranking 4th among active drivers. Denny Hamlin comes home 2nd, continuing his hot streak. That's his 7th straight top 10 finish. And Casey Kane picked a bad time for his first DNF of the season. He finished 38th after blowing an engine. Joining us now is Sunday's race winner, Mark Martin. Mark, congratulations. You've said all along the reason you came to Hendrick Motorsports was simply to win 1 race. You've won 5, including round 1 of the chase. What's this like for you?
Oh, it's a dream. I was speechless after the race. I couldn't believe that Alan Gustafson figured out a way to win a race at Loudon with me, because I don't get around this place very good. But, you know, I knew the times were pretty good in practice. I knew if we figured out a way to stumble around and get in the front, you know, I might be able to stay there. Juan was strong. It's a shame that it turned out the way it did, but we're tickled to death to get the win. We had the outside lane. That's really where you needed to be on the restarts, get that momentum up off the corner, and you know, it's just a really cool accomplishment for all these guys, and we're having a blast.
What was that battle like with Juan Pablo Montoya in the closing laps?
Well, it was a hard battle. You know, we were racing hard for the win, both of us. But you know, we both know that you know, we got to race hard, and we got to make it to the end both. So, you know, he was pushing as hard as he could, and I was pushing as hard as I could, and I knew that he had been, you know, a little stronger than we had, but you know, I had that outside lane, and you know, that had been working on the restarts for you know, for us at least, and so. You know, we raced for it.
Yeah, we all noticed that you consistently chose that outside lane on the restarts. Can you give us a little bit of an idea why you did that?
In the corners, if you were down on the inside on the restarts, it'd make the car really get loose for a while, and you got pinched down and would get loose. It was not the best for restarting out here on the straightaway. The inside lane was better for restarting, but in the corners, the outside lane was actually better, certainly better for us. And so, you know, we just buckled down and tried to pull it off. It couldn't be so easy. With 20 laps to go, I had half a straightaway lead. And I knew it wasn't going to be that easy. But I didn't know it was going to be as hard as it was either. So, you know, we're tickled to get it. It could have gone the other way. you know, and we could have not won and got shuffled back or whatever, especially with these double file restarts and everything, but it didn't, and here we are.
Yeah, what was it like for you having all those restarts in the closing laps? I mean, you had such a dominant car, a big lead, and it went away quite a few times.
It is what it is, man. You know, yeah, I mean, you know, we like to be selfish, but at the end of the day, it's about the show for the fans, and you know, that had to be a better show than us running away the last 20 laps. So, you know, you got to take the good with the bad, and you know, I'm sure that you know, we're going to be on the losing end of it, you know, going down the road, but we'll take it today.
As far as looking down the road, you said in Victory Lane this was your hardest track among the chase tracks. With a W now in the record books, how does this affect the mindset moving forward?
It doesn't. It's only 1 of 10. I mean, you can't get all upside down. It's great to win a race. Forget the points right now. We won. You know, it is still about the racing to me, and we got us a win, and there's 9 more to go, and there's the Lotto at Talladega, and you know, and all kinds of things can happen. So, you know, we'd rather finish first than anywhere else, and we did here this weekend. But you know, lots of racing to go. You can't see the picture clearly till we get down to 5 to go, and it'll be even more clear with 4 to go. So hopefully we can keep things going and be in the picture. But winning races is what it's about.
Okay, so we take one race at a time. The next one is Dover. How do you look at that one?
My favorite racetrack. So I look forward to that one. You know, I came up here with a good attitude, and the guys had a great attitude and a great plan with the car, and they made the car better than you know, than I've had up here most of the time that I've been up here, and you know, we raced it, and we're going to fight. We're going to fight at our good places and at our tough places as well, and that's what we did this weekend.
Well, we've all enjoyed watching you fight, and well, I'm sure and I know there's millions of race fans out there pulling for you. Congratulations and good luck moving forward.
Well, thanks, man, and it means a lot to me how the fans are rallying behind us right now. It's really cool.
Of the chasers, Mark Martin has gotten off to the best start, but he's not the only one with a solid finish in race 1. We'll hear from Juan Pablo Montoya and Denny Hamlin coming up. Mark Martin with the checkered flag doing a victory lap at the Magic Mile. Then in Victory Lane enjoying the spoils of victory. Mark Martin certainly one of the big stories, or the big story, but not the only one. For more, let's go to our pit reporters who work the trenches today.
I'm Jamie Little, and today I was covering Juan Pablo Montoya. He was the fastest driver all weekend, started on the pole, and he was the most aggressive driver in the race. But a bad call to make a track bar adjustment on the second to last pit stop set him back a little bit. Well, the final stop, they went back on that track bar adjustment. He got racy again, and he crossed the finish line second. But NASCAR rules put him back in third. He ended up fourth in points, and that's the best the birthday boy has ever been.
I'm Vince Welch, and in my pit area today, Kurt Busch in the 2-car, and of course that's a team that has had a lot of attention focused on it with the announcement that Pat Tryson, the crew chief, will be leaving at the end of the chase. There was some combative banter back and forth between Kurt Busch and Pat Tryson late in the race, and it was a hangover from Busch still being upset that they had actually come to pit road on that particular instance in which he'd had a collision with David Reagan. Whether this team will be able to put this disappointment behind them and move on will be a key to the success that this team has in the chase. It goes to Dover next week, 5th in points.
Jimmie Johnson finished 4th today and picked up 1 spot in the chase. He now is in 2nd position and put on a championship-like run today, even though he didn't win. What do I mean by that? In the early part of the race, they had a poor pit stop that dropped them from a few spots in the running order. Jimmy said, "I need you guys on pit road today." Crew chief Chad Knaus said, "It's okay, we'll recover." And they did. There was some screwy pit strategy at the end that sort of shuffled them back, but all day long, they kept chopping away at it. And even at the end of the race, there was some humor in Chad Knaus's voice as he tried to convince his driver that it was the best car out there. Jimmy accepting at the end of the day. So for them, a good run for him, a good way to start the chase in the 48.
I'm Shannon Spake, and I covered Greg Biffle in Loudon on Sunday. The team started 22nd on the race. They really struggled with the handling of the race car. In fact, at one point, Greg Biffle said he didn't know what they could do to the car to make it better. But the team continued to work. They finished with a 9th place finish and 9th in the standings. Greg Irwin, crew chief for Greg Biffle, told me earlier in the week that they felt like they were the underdogs, and they will continue to fight to try to win this championship.
Thank you, guys. Great work today. Now, while Mark Martin went to victory lane, his team wasn't the only one with reason to celebrate. Getting off to a good start in race 1 is certainly reason to be happy with your team moving forward. Two guys who certainly fall into that category are Denny Hamlin and Juan Pablo Montoya, guys who finished 2nd and 3rd. For what they said after the race, let's go to the media center.
Did you find it kind of ironic there at the end that, you know, you were the guy that was there pressing Mark Martin, and he was the guy who said of you that you were the most dangerous one in this chase? And how much?
That's what I tell you guys before. He keeps saying that, but I think he's the most dangerous guy. You know, he's the guy with most experience here. He hasn't won a championship, and he wants one pretty bad. So, you know, I mean, I know the 48 is going to be there every week and everything, the same thing as always, but if somebody wants it really bad, it's that 5 guys. You know, if we got a shot at it, we're going to give it everything we got. Everything. We ain't leaving anything on the table. I can tell you that.
On pit road, you talked about the trust you will have now in Brian, I guess. But can you expand on how important it is to have that, especially now in the chase between a driver and a crew chief?
It's always important. You know, I trust him 100%. It's just sometimes he makes some calls. I'm wondering, it's like, well, 5's in, this guy's in, the other guy's in, and you go, man, why aren't we pitting? And then you see, you know, they come out because it's about a lap, so they come out and they drive by you, they pull away. By the time you come out, you're going to be that much further behind, and we were lucky we had that yellow.
Juan Pablo, congratulations. Thank you for your time. We're now joined in the infield media center by driver number 11 FedEx Freight Toyota, Denny Hamlin. Denny, tell us about your run today.
It was a solid run. You know, we didn't really have a race-winning car until probably 50 to go after we came out, though, on that green flag pit stop, and we were catching the 5 and the 2 really, really fast, a half a second a lap. And I was like, man, if this thing goes green, we got a shot at it. And the caution came out, and I knew that wasn't going to be good for us because it put us in the bottom lane. And I got killed every single restart on the bottom lane, and I'd get stuck 3 wide in the first corner, and then I'd have to battle my way back. So to come out second when I should have been about 5th with those restarts, I was pretty proud of that.
We'll open it up to questions from the media. We'll start up here with Ed.
Ed Hinton, ESPN.com. Denny, in that last scramble there, Juan Pablo was saying at one point Mark sort of stopped in the middle of the bottom of the corner down in 1, and he had no place else to go. And he said it was a calculated move. He would have done the same thing. But finally, there's a move that Mark Martin made that somebody questioned. Did you see that? And also, did it help you? Was that a factor in your getting 2nd place away from Juan Pablo?
Yeah, it was. I mean, the 42 was kind of bottled up on the bottom of the 5, and I knew it was going to be interesting because I think his spotter came over and told my spotter that he wasn't lifting until the 5 did, getting in turn 1. So I knew it was going to be extremely exciting getting in the first corner. But the 5, I mean, when you're on the outside, you're the guy on the inside is at mercy of you, and that was the same way. I was stuck in 3rd on every single restart, and the 48 was on the outside, and I kept running into him because, you know, I was trying to gain positions, but, you know, the error is so bad down there that you can't go anywhere. So the 42 was in a bad spot. Even though his car may have been quicker, it didn't matter because the 5 had position on him, and the 5 used it to its advantage. He just kind of held the 42 low, and when he did that, there's just no grip in your race car.
Great runs for both Montoya and Hamlin. And Boris, does this solidify both these guys as legitimate championship contenders?
I think so. I mean, all year long, basically the Hendrick teams have been dominant, and Tony Stewart included in that, and everyone thought one of those guys is going to win the chase. But I think after what we saw today, Denny Hamlin and Juan Pablo are definite contenders for the chase. I think they're the only 2 other guys that can compete with the Hendrick cars.
Well, both those guys had great days. Nobody had a better day than Mark Martin. And when we come back, we'll hear from his crew chief, Alan Gustafson, who devised a race-winning pit strategy in New Hampshire. Be sure to tune in Monday night for Monday Night Football. This week, it's the Colts visiting the Dolphins. Kickoff at 8:30. Everything gets started on ESPN, though, at 7 p.m. with Monday Night Countdown. All this served to you by Applebee's. Joining us now is the winning crew chief from Sunday, Alan Gustafson. And Alan, first off, congratulations. When you won today, all I could think of was what you said after winning in Phoenix at the beginning of the year. You said during the preseason, when you found out Mark Martin was your driver, you made a pledge to yourself to win one race. You've done a heck of a lot more than that. What's this like for you right now?
It's a great feeling, and it's it's really special for me. It's really special for everybody at Hendrick Motorsports and Kellogg's and CarQuest and all these guys. You know, this race team's really phenomenal. They work really hard. They put the best race cars on the racetrack, so it's special to me. It's a great opportunity. You know, that's kind of what I alluded to when I said that. You know, Mark Martin is as good a race car driver to ever drive these cars, and when you get an opportunity with a guy like that, I'm not going to let it go to waste. This team's not going to let it go to waste. Hendrick Motorsports isn't. So we took care of business today, and we've got 9 more to go, but we'll keep pushing hard.
After that first win in the spring, you guys were very humble, saying you didn't know if you'd be able to win any more. How much have the goals changed since the spring with this 5-team?
Well, I mean, the goal's always been, since I've been crew chief at the 5, to eventually win a championship, and we just have been working and building and building and working and trying to get there and trying to get all the right pieces. So that's kind of been the background goal. You know, when Mark came on board, we knew we had to win races or win a race, contend for race wins, top 5s, and put ourselves in position. Probably in position a little quicker than we thought, but with his talent, we knew we had that opportunity. So the goal is still a championship. That's what we're working towards. It's going to take a lot of work to do it, but I feel like we've got the right team to do it with, and I definitely know we have the right driver.
And certainly you deserve a lot of credit as well. A very strong race car today. What did you have to adjust on it, if anything?
We didn't do much. We'd adjust a little bit. We were loose in, loose off to start, and a little tight in the center, so we worked on it and got it better. The track kind of came to us, which we expected it to do, and that clean air is awesome. And a little blood in the water is good for Mark, too, so we got out front there and got going.
A little blood in the water. I bet your heart was in your throat a little bit at the end of the race. A rash of cautions. What were you thinking with all those restarts?
No. That's the first thought that came to my mind. You know, I thought with the pitch strategy, the way it played out, that was a little bit of a gamble. So that played out perfectly in our favor when we passed Denny. At that point in time, we were in good shape, and we had a big enough lead on Kurt where we're just taking care of our stuff. So we didn't want to see any cautions, and of course they came one after the other, and then the last thing we wanted to see is the fastest car in short runs line up inside of us. But Mark was awesome, got a great restart. Juan was great, raced us clean, and we ended up getting the win.
We heard Mark talking about how difficult New Hampshire had been for him in the past. This one's now behind him. A W's in the record books. How do you look at Dover as we move forward?
Well, Dover's a very strong track for Mark. You know, we did not run as well as we should have there in the spring. So we've been working really hard on that track. We know we get Mark some equipment that's close there, we'll be in good shape. So fortunately for us, you know, Jimmy won the race and was phenomenal. The 48 team did a great job there in the spring, so we can rely on a lot of what they did. We have been in the work we've done up to now, and we're really excited about it. We thought, you know, we circled Dover as a track we thought we could go contend to win at, so still feel that way. But we got to get in there on Monday and keep pushing.
All right, congratulations. 1 down, 9 to go.
Thanks, Mike.
When we return on NASCAR Now, our focus will change from the Magic Mile to the Monster Mile. We'll preview Race 2 at Dover. Next week, Biffle was the winner there a year ago.
NASCAR Now, brought to you by AutoZone. Because do it yourself doesn't mean you have to do it alone. Get in the zone. AutoZone.
Be sure to join us here on NASCAR Now for the Monday Roundtable, coming at you at 5 Eastern. Boris Said, Ray Evernham, Ricky Craven, and Alan Bestwick will debate and discuss all the issues coming out of New Hampshire.
Greg Biffle will go back-to-back. Biffle beats the Monster and wins at Dover, Delaware.
That's the best driver, the best car, and the best pit crew won that race. Thank you, fellas. Thanks for sticking with us.
That was, of course, Greg Biffle, who went to victory lane in Race 2 of the Chase last year. Biffle will be among the contenders once again when we get there this week. But Dover, Very tough racetrack. What should we expect?
Well, I think we're going to see what we saw today, the chase guys battling it out at the front. Today we saw 8 of the 12 chase guys in the top 11, so I think much of the same for next weekend. It's a track where Mark Martin has won 4 races there, so I think he's going to be tough to beat there.
What about the guys who had bad luck today in New Hampshire, in particular Casey Kane? This week, no question, some people are going to write him off. Should we?
I don't think so, because 2 years ago, same thing happened to Jimmy Johnson. Had bad luck at the first race, then went on a tear, won 4 in a row. So right now, Casey Kane, he's kind of in the driver's seat. There's nowhere to go but up, so he can roll the dice and go there and do everything he can to win that race.
Now, you mentioned Mark Martin, 4 wins in Dover. We heard him on the show saying it's his favorite racetrack. How much of an opportunity is in front of him already this early in the chase?
I think a lot of opportunity. I think when he says it's his famous racetrack, I think the other guys need to get a little bit scared. But also, the track historically has been really good for the Roush Fenway drivers, so maybe Greg Biffle and Carl Edwards can rebound after this weekend.
And Jimmy Johnson's quest for a 4th straight title looks like it got off to a pretty good start.
Not a bad start, 4th place. He made a lot of ground up this race, getting the car better and better at the end. I still think Jimmy Johnson is the favorite to win the championship.
Finally, not chase related, but there's a lot of people out there concerned. Dale Earnhardt Jr., signs of optimism?
Oh, I think so. He ran great this weekend. He was up to 2nd at one point. You know, a little bad luck at the end took him out, but Dale Jr. is definitely making some rebounds.
Well, still plenty to talk about in this chase. 9 races remaining. Lots of drama to unfold. We'll be covering it all here for you on NASCAR Now. Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully we'll see you on Monday for the Roundtable. Good night, everyone.